Hello and welcome to another Game Informer review discussion. I am Alex Stadnick. I am GI's largest video editor. Join with me today. You love him. He's the host of the GI show. It was really hard to get him, but we worked it out. Ben Reeves. Hello, so. Hello, so. Hello, sir.
So.
Hello,
How you
so.
doing?
I are good. I'm obviously falling apart at the seams, but today we're gonna talk a little bit about Crash Bandicoot 4. It's about time. It's about time we had this conversation.
It is, yeah. Crash Bandicoot 4. I played it. I played and beat it. Yeah.
Wow.
And so I wrote a review. It's on the site. It should be on the site now by the time this video's up. You can check it out if you want to read. And if you don't like reading, that's why we're here.
Exactly.
We're here to talk about it.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess we should start off with the good. What did you like about it? Is it fun? Is it worth playing?
It is fun. Yeah. I mean, we can start off, I gave it an 8.5. So obviously I liked the game. It's classic Crash Bandicoot. So if you played Crash in the 90s, those early Naughty Dog games, like this is definitely feels right in line with those games. It's classic Crash. There's less of the stuff they had in the third game, Warped. There's less of that. The mini games are like flying around doing different. There was more like stuff in the third one. I felt, or this like focuses in on the platforming. Like this is the star of the show, is like running around in that kind of weird like 2.5D Crash style where it's technically a 3D game, but most of the time you're kind of limited by how you're moving around. Either
very much
side scrolling,
east west.
Yeah, sometimes you're running at the camera. It does a good job of mixing it up, which is nice. But yeah, it's kind of a unique thing that was born of the 90s limitations of the hardware, and they're going back to it. Like they're no longer have those hardware limitations, but they think, that was a cool formula for a video game, and Toys for Bob is picking up the mantle and doing another Crash game. So it's kind of cool to like see this return for this series that we haven't seen in a while.
Definitely.
And it's good. Like it's good in a very hard way. Like you've played some. Did you play the old Crash games?
So not a ton. I dabbled when I was at like after school stuff, but I never really owned a Crash game. And I think that actually not necessarily hurt my experience to start, but it definitely, there was the first hour or so, it took me aback at how difficult it is. And I think that stems from it purposefully holds back a lot of modern 3D platforming conventions that we're kind of used to with like Super Mario Odyssey these days. Like, there's no, I think the one thing I really noticed was like, there's no clamber. So if you miss a ledge, even though if like your Crash's torso or Coco's torso could like be high enough, you're still not going to get on it. And I think that took some getting used to from me not being used to this series. But I think once I accepted that, oh, this is very much an homage and a love letter to those old games, and I wrapped my brain around that. I was like, okay, this is a level of challenge that isn't oppressive, but it's very fun. And once I started to get into that, I really started to gel with what the game was throwing down.
Yeah, for sure. And I had fun with it. The challenge, we've mentioned the challenge a couple times, and like the challenge isn't a bad thing by any means. In fact, like, you hit a point where you're like, man, this is hard, but then you master it and you run through all these platforming challenges and just nail every one. Like that feels really good. I really enjoyed that part. The part that I do feel hasn't aged super well, that they've kind of held to this formula of like hitting at a certain checkpoint, and the checkpoints are super spaced out in a way that feels like it would have been in the original game, or excuse me, like in a game of that era, I should say. They're spaced out in an appropriate way for the 90s, but like it's not the 90s anymore. We're kind of used to quicker starts and like more checkpoints per level. So that bugged me because you have to like replay areas over and over again and replay sections that you're like pretty good at this point just to get to a part that you're having trouble with. I don't know if that's aged super well, but it is what it is. Like it kind of plays into that nostalgia too. So if you really love Crash games for that reason, then great.
Yeah.
This is another one of those games. And there's a modern mode you can turn on where you don't have to worry about lives. I appreciated. Yeah, I kind of did that. I messed around with both modes. The old mode, the, I don't know what they call it, classic mode,
I think retro. I think.
retro mode,
Yeah.
is you have lives. So it's just like the original game. And once you run out of lives, you die and you have to start the level over again.
Definitely. The level of challenge is not conventional, but I think it works for what it's trying to accomplish. And so I think if you're new to this series, just be aware that you're going to complete levels, but if you're not breaking every box and doing all the side stuff, you're not going to unlock the plethora of costumes that are in this game. There's a new costume every level that you have to get all 6 gems to unlock.
Yeah, that is kind of fun. They added a lot of reasons to go back and replay levels, and you can collect a variety of gems from smashing the boxes. There's a hidden gem in each level. There's gems for beating the level with a certain number of lives with without dying. You know what I mean? So that's kind of nice. It gives you a reason to go back and replay this level. And like, hey, I want to get that cool costume. Uh, yeah, that's a nice addition. Another addition that we haven't talked about yet is they added these masks. Masks have always been a thing. Those witch doctor masks that you can get for an extra like bit of health. But in this one, there's quantum masks, which quantum masks they allow you to do things to space time continuum, right? So one mask turns you into a little vortex that allows you to not quite fly, but like float really high and get over really big gaps. Another one will invert gravity, so you're running around along the ceiling or slow down time, for example. So those things, those are kind of cool. You don't use them on every level, and they don't show up all the time. But when they do, I was usually excited to mess around with them.
Yeah, and they add to that level of like white knuckle platforming that it feels like, especially the one that I was using in the beginning is the one where I can't remember what the mask's name is, but you use it to change up the terrain, and you know, so it's like you're jumping and then you have to hit the switch and then that block, that platforming block turns on and stuff like that, and that gets wild really quickly, and but once you complete that, there's a level of satisfaction there and gameplay variety that I feel like is definitely needed in something like this.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of gameplay variety, they actually add some more characters. So most of the game you play as Crash or Coco. You can choose who you want to play as. You want to play as Crash or his sister. But then there's also these special levels that you unlock throughout the game. There's not a ton of them. There's like a handful for each character, but there's 3 other playable characters that you unlock. Tanya is one of them. That's like an alternate reality version of Crash's love interest from the first game, and she's pretty cool because she has this grappling hook that she can grab onto things and like zip across a field, for example, or she can actually use it to hit enemies, or she can use it to break boxes that are far away. So that's pretty cool. I actually had a lot of fun with her levels. Then there's Dingo Dial, like a crocodile dingo creature who has a giant vacuum that he can suck things up, and he can use it to kind of hover across gaps. And then the third one is Dr. Neo Cortex, you can play as, and he doesn't have a double jump. Instead, he has a gun that he can use to shoot enemies, and he can transform enemies into platforms. And that's how he gets around. So it's kind of a good way to mix up the action. It still feels like a Crash Bandicoot game, but you're definitely playing as a different character in these special levels. And I had a lot of fun with those as well.
Cool. Good. So do you have any parting thoughts, any final thoughts? You touched on the good, you touched on some of the annoying. Will Crash fans love this? Will new fans love it? What are your final thoughts?
Yeah, I think Crash fans will absolutely love this game. I don't Toys for Bob, the developer of the game, they did a really good job of making a game that felt like it honored the spirit of Crash Bandicoot games, at least the first 3, back before they started to diverge and do different things with the series. There's a reason they call it Crash 4, right? Like they're kind of ignoring the stuff that came after the third one. So this is like that original classic Crash Bandicoot action. And even for somebody who was like you mentioned, like you weren't a Crash Bandicoot fan in the back in the day, and I actually wasn't either. Like I kind of came to the series a little bit late. I still had a good time with this even now. It's a game that they don't make many of these classic platformers, uh, mascot driven games anymore. And I would like to see more of those. So it's cool that they made this game,
Definitely.
and it's definitely well made.
Yeah. I definitely agree. I am excited to play more. I'm excited to push myself and see if I can complete some of those flashback tapes and everything. And I'm excited. I think people are gonna really like this game. So what did you give it, and where can you find the written review?
GameInformer.com, everybody.
That's right,
Check it out. It's the
baby.
only website that you need to know on the internet. What other
That's it.
website would you need to go to?
We cover everything.
GameInformer.com has my review. I gave it an 8.5. I liked it.
Yay.
I
That's
don't know what
good
else to say.
news. We like
What else do
we
you want
like
from
good
me?
news. Yeah. Get out of here. That's what I want from you. Thank you so much for watching. Let us know in the comments and online or on GameInformer.com if you like these kind of review discussions. We're trying to figure out how to supplement our video reviews and our written reviews, and we're trying this out. So let us know what you think. You can hit us up on Twitter, on the website, all that kind of stuff. Thank you. Like, share, subscribe. You guys know the whole thing at this point. Share with your friends. Be safe, be well, and thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.